Shrug family, this week on Barbell Shrugged, Javier Pineda is coming into the show. He is our endurance specialist inside Rapid Health Optimization. So all of the very specific goals for people that want to be going from one place to another and a very, very long distance in between those two places, whether it's on a bike or swimming or running or on a foil board or on who knows what kind of other apparatus. But all of our endurance athletes, they have a specialist that is working with them on all things endurance, and it is awesome having him here. We really, really enjoy it, and everybody enjoys working with him. And as always, friends, you can head over to rapidhealthreport.com. That is where Dan Garner and Dr. Andy Galpin are doing a free lab, lifestyle, and performance analysis, and you can access that over at rapidhealthreport.com. Friends, let's get into the show. Welcome to Barbell Shrugged. I'm Anders Varner, Doug Larson, Coach Travis Smash. Today on Barbell Shrugged, Javier Pineda. Javier, you are new to our team and also very awesome in that you speak a language of long distance, running, endurance. But what I really want to kick off is when I first met you, you dropped a name of Paul Chek. And I immediately wanted to fly down to Miami and just have coffee and talk to you about how that man changed my life. I'd love to hear a little bit of kind of the background on how you got into where you're at. And then I want to spend a little bit of time talking about Paul Chek, because that guy over like a half day genuinely changed my life. And I tell stories about the half day that I spent with him all the time to people.
Guys, thank you very much for the invite. And Anders, yeah, man, it's Paul Chek. My God. I mean, it's first off, Paul Chek he's always been, I've been a practitioner for Paul Chek for the last 20 something years. And still to this day, I still go back and watch his videos, and they are still just as impressive as they were when the first time I ever saw him. And
they probably are better because you're more experienced.
Exactly. And it's kind of like the old book. You go back and read it again, and the words inside that book change.
Yeah.
And so it kind of, I interpret things differently. I go back to I can only have to watch like 4 minutes for 4 to 6 minutes of a Paul Chek skit, or even just listening to him. It's kind of like, woof, it kind of centers. And this is how wise this guy is. And I've always considered him so ahead of his time. And the great thing is that a lot of people are just now starting again to start going to his certifications, and the more they can learn from somebody like him, as opposed to just going on social media and getting information from influencers, I feel it's going to be, the whole fitness industry is just going to be far better off, and not to mention everybody's going to be far healthier.
Yeah. Dude, one of my first impressions with Paul was like, it's almost fashionable these days to say you're holistic health, that type of thing. And Paul really is one of the few people that really seems to get health, fitness, wellness, etc. from like every angle. He understands how all the systems and subsystems fit together. Like he can architect all the different things you need to do to improve your total physiological health in a way that is very unique, that not many other people can accomplish. He's very intelligent.
No, I 100% agree. And if you ever look at his questionnaires on his book of how to eat, move, and be healthy, his questionnaires go very much in detail. And a lot of people are like, yo, really, dude, I mean, do you really need to know what my poop looks like? Because that's how much in detail the questionnaires are. And we're talking back in the day. And I still give it out. And it's like, people are still kind of like, do you still really need to know my poop? I mean, your poop says a lot about what your gut health is doing. So it's. And not to mention, it's the person that recommended me with Brian, which is another great connection that we all have. I mean, Brian McKenzie holds a dear place in my heart, because he's been a very good friend, and even though I barely see him anymore, every once in a while we text and whatnot, but it's great.
Is he still in California?
Yeah,
I love that dude. How can you not love that guy?
Yeah, he's awesome. He has such a big personality that he can just come up and just basically just listen. He has that charisma.
Yeah. He was actually the one that put us in touch with you.
Yeah.
when we reached out looking for somebody that could help one of our clients with some Ironman goals. How long is kind of like the long distance endurance coaching side been a part of your kind of health like coaching journey?
Well, it started off in 2001. Um, and back in the day, Ironmans were still very, very few people did Ironmans. And not to mention half Ironmans more than anything, but Ironmans were very much a mystique. And I kind of was attracted to it, but just the fact that nobody was doing it attracted me. And then I just started looking at, okay, what do you need to do to finish something like this? I mean, we're talking about a 2.4-mile swim. We're talking about a 112-mile bike, and then a marathon after all that, all in one day. And to be specific, I guess it was 16 hours back then.
Yeah.
It's 1% of the whole population, not even. And but nowadays, I mean, more and more people are going into the Ironmans or the half Ironmans or marathons or something long distance just because they want to, I mean, maybe get in the sport or just mark it off as I did it, which is okay. And but yeah, it's a grueling sport. Endurance can be a very tricky world, and you can navigate a lot of venues and still just benefit from it to a certain extent.
Wait, what was the draw for you specifically? Because you've done what, 10 Ironmans?
10 Ironmans, yes. I've done 10 Ironmans, and I've also done plenty of half Ironmans and Olympic distance, preparing for those Ironmans. And not to mention that Ironmans are just a grueling sport because they take a lot. It becomes a full-time job when you're training for it. And the financial aspect of it, I mean, it's like I remember just spending so much freaking money on it, on bikes and on gels and on coaches. And it's not to mention that you go and travel to other countries and you have to pay for your bike and you have to pay for all those things. And there was, I remember that back in 2004, I think it was this cartoonish kind of audio tape or something. It came up and saying it's this guy trying to get a date with a girl. It's all robotic voice. This guy trying to get a date with a girl, and then the girl was like, "No, man, it's like, how am I gonna go out with you? You wake up at 4 a.m. or something like that." It's like, because that's what we do. We have no life. We have no social life whatsoever. Yeah. The only social life you have is with the people you train with.
Yeah. Well, you got to put so many hours into the road. That was one of the things that Brian McKenzie, I feel like, actually made the biggest impact in my opinion, the biggest impact in the endurance space was you don't have to go swim the whole event every day, and you don't have to run the whole event every single day, and really got people away from the endless hours that they were just beating their body down, and actually was talking about how strength training and more high intensity work was beneficial to endurance events. I'd love to understand kind of in your intake process though, like what are the metrics that you're looking for as far as a starting point? What is your like what data is collected to really be able to find out where people are at, and so you know what the next step for them is?
Dr. Andy Galpin here. As a listener of the show, you've probably heard us talking about the RTA program, which we're all incredibly proud of. It's a culmination of everything Dan Garner and I have learned over more than 2 decades of working with some of the world's most elite performers, award-winning athletes, billionaires, musicians, executives, and frankly, anyone who just wanted to be at their absolute best. RTA is not a normal coaching program. It's not just macros and a workout plan. It's not physique transformation and pre and post pictures. RTA is something completely different. RTA is incredibly comprehensive and designed to uncover your unique molecular signature, find your performance anchors, and solve them permanently. You'll be working with not one person, but rather a full team of elite professionals, each with their own special expertise to maximize precision, accuracy, and effectiveness of your analysis and optimization plan. Arate isn't about treating symptoms or quick fixes. It's about unlocking your full potential and looking, feeling, and performing at your absolute best, physically and mentally, when the stakes are the highest. To learn more, visit aratelab.com. That's ARETE lab.com. Now, back to the show.
I've fine-tuned my approach and just getting more and more specific. And this is something I enjoy working at Rapid because of this, because I can apply my skills towards what I am looking for. And for instance, I'm working with this marathoner who wants to break the 3-hour mark. And there's certain parameters I'm looking for. I'm looking for, okay, does this guy has the speed? Does the leg turnover? Or does this guy has the endurance? So I have a series of distances and a series of measurements that I do to see where he's lacking and where we can actually increase his training. And it's always great that at Rapid, you're always contributing or collaborating with another strength coach. And that's huge. I mean, because first off, there are no egos and there's no my way or the highway. And we kind of start brainstorming ideas in what could be more beneficial for the athlete or the client. And this is the part I feel it's a win-win, because I mean, not that I'm always right. I mean, I may mess up sometimes. I may do the wrong test when it's like, so I feel that sometimes the collaboration of it's like, maybe we should wait for this and do this at such time. But depending on what the distance is, I do certain distance measurements for that. For instance, a 10K is not going to be the same test of a half marathoner. Or if you're training for a marathon, I guess a 200-meter test is not going to be any beneficial. So I have certain distances to go along with what the end goal is.
Yeah. Do you measure a lot of like VO2 max type
Oh yeah.
efforts?
Yeah.
And do you have a bunch of that set up in your gym?
Yeah. Well, I invested on my I came with all those things already to the gym, and I feel that you can get so much valuable information from the VO2, from the lactate, from even the metabolic assessment.
Yeah.
I try to start them off by first getting their resting metabolic rate, which is far more important than your getting you moving or anything. So your resting metabolic rate, there are some individuals that are just so metabolically sick that just sitting there, they're just burning carbohydrates.
Yeah.
Because just for the listener to understand, when I say metabolic assessment, I'm just saying how much at rest you are burning fat as opposed to carbohydrates. If you start burning carbohydrates, there's something going on in your metabolic system. So yeah.
How do you test for that? You know, I understand the lactate, I understand the VO2 max, but what kind of tests do you have to run to figure that out?
So with the mask, it's the same concept with just putting the mask on you, and then when the resting metabolic rate, I just keep you there and I just make you breathe for about 10 to 15 minutes, and therefore there's going to be the crossing point of where it is that you're, if any, you're burning carbohydrates at what point in heart rate. But when I start making you move and I start walking, like I remember the first time my aunt, who's also a doctor in physiology, she introduced this test on me, and she made me walk on this treadmill. And I was like, this is such a slow walk. But she asked me not to speak or anything, because any type of back and forth on the mask, the gases and everything, it's just like, just keep yourself quiet. And as she starts moving very, very slowly, you can see that my heart rate was going to a point that of almost crossing to that point of carbohydrates, and I wasn't even going fast. Or at least I thought I wasn't even going fast. So based on that test, I understood what really my zone 2 is, which is where you are really burning fat. And therefore, anything above a certain heart rate was going to be not optimal for me if I wanted to create more aerobic engine or expand my aerobic engine, that is. Does that make sense, man?
Yeah, to what extent are you using that information to design your client's training, as opposed to just assigning distances or assigning a pace for a specific distance? Like, how are you using that data to craft protocols?
So, for instance, if somebody wants to just get aerobically fit and they want to just go there, because I have a chat with them. I tell them that this is not a 3 month program. This is not a 6 month. It could even be extended to 1 year. And I make them understand that this is not like I want to be thin for a wedding or whatever. I mean, this is a process that it's going to take time. It's going to take a lot of collaboration. It's going to take a lot of patience, and it's also going to be a lot of tweaking involved. So therefore, it's imperative to understand that yes, you're going to have to come back for testing. You're going to have to readjust certain things because you as an athlete are going to be expanding. You're going to be supposedly growing. So, for instance, if I'll take myself an example, my zone two back when I was being tested was I cannot go above 130 beats per minute. That was my zone two. So anything above it. So that therefore, if my program would say, all right, do what 200 meters and then recover or walk for twice the time it took you to the 200 meters, I gotta have my heart rate go all the way down to zone two to 130. So therefore, it's the rest that started getting me fitter as opposed to me doing the work. And therefore, this is where I understood when Brian McKenzie would always say, then this is one of the first kind of quotes I remember from him, that endurance athletes are not overworked. They're just under recovered. And this is so true in many regards. I mean, it's like as an endurance athlete, you want to do more, you want to keep pushing, and you see it everywhere. I mean, it's like you see the countless hours, you see all the things they're doing, and he even stated that it's so true. I mean, if you look at all these pro athletes, they look like they've been in a lab doing math all this time, and it's freaking apparent. It's so true because the more recovered you are, the better you are gonna perform, and that's how you use it. And this is why it takes a long time. It takes a long time for you to adjust to that. At the beginning, you feel like you're not doing anything, and as an endurance athlete, a day off is a day of reckoning.
Yeah. Wait, how do you find the balance between being properly recovered and just kind of slacking off, so to speak? Because a lot of guys,
Well,
if you go from like a volume-based approach where you're just hitting miles and more miles and more miles and more miles, and then you're like, back it off, don't do anything, take a day off, just
yeah,
run some sprints. People are gonna be like, I feel like I'm doing nothing
it's
right now.
it's can I curse in this podcast? It's a
Oh
mind
yeah,
fuck.
let it rip.
Yeah, man, it's a mind fuck. It's honestly a mind fuck because and when you treat an athlete or you start talking to an athlete with that type of, all right, let's go, man, let's go, let's start putting in those miles, let's start putting in those sprints, let's start putting, and you're like, whoa, I mean, but you kind of want to give them what they want, but also what they need, and just start sprinkling in a little bit more recovery here and there to make them understand that this is what's going to make them faster. It's when you recover, the way you're recovering. If you're recovering fast, okay, then we can nudge it up a bit. But if the person is not really recovering after each interval, therefore it's like, okay, this is when we have to have a talk because it's, and they're gonna feel it's gonna be apparent in what they see. It's like I'm not hitting the times. For instance, I got this person doing 1K repeats, and we're gonna actually have a talk later because he was not hitting the times based on the recovery. And there's a person that wanted consistent volume and just wanted to get to work. And so this is where I have to step in. It's like, this is where you have to go back a notch. You cannot just go because, oh, well, for instance, it was a 2 minute rest and he was already just cramming, just like 2 minutes felt eternal.
Yeah. What is it about the endurance? I feel like this may be my uninformed opinion, but many times I see people jumping into long distance sports almost in a way of I want to go be an athlete and everybody can run. So all of a sudden we're doing a marathon. I'd love to understand kind of like your process of understanding like here's the starting point Here's how we get better. And then maybe a little bit down the road here, we can do 26 of these miles in a row. And I hate to be the person that kind of like makes fun of slash like I'm always rooting for people to increase their fitness. But I also feel like running is like the single sport that like you just need two legs and you need to walk faster. So let's go run a marathon. And not really understanding the actual skill set that goes along with running properly, maintaining good form, like so you don't get injured and have to wear all the funky knee things as you're trying to complete this goal.
You bleed from your nipples.
Yeah, like I would. That's its own one. Nipple tape, and you have to wear it, right?
Yeah,
But
it's crazy.
how do you incorporate and balance the I want to go run a marathon and I want to train hard every day and feel like a superhero with you don't really have the strength to keep your knees from caving in every time your foot hits the ground.
Oh man, it's it's a tricky question. It's a tricky situation in all honesty. Um, I'm such a I'm very perfectionist when it comes down to okay, let's do it through how it should be. Okay, first let's take a look at your structure. Let's take a look at your gait. Let's take a look at how you are composed on. Um, a lot of the people that run marathons have the flattest feet possible. That their knees just cave in. They're wearing orthotics, or shoe companies are selling orthotics like if it's candy now. When it's statistically speaking, only 7% of the whole population should be wearing orthotics, but therefore orthotics are everywhere now, and this is just states the where the industry has gone. And I've had a few clients, and one in particular who he's he's a very dear friend. He's 6'6", and um he wanted to run a marathon. He was just like, I want to run this marathon. I want to put a big check mark. And I was like, all right, cool. So when was the last time you ran? It was with you 2 years ago. And 2 years ago was in the San Francisco half marathon. I'm like, shit. Okay. So when do we start? I'm like, all right. So let's take it piece by piece. And this is a guy that, I mean, honestly, once he sets his mind on something, all right, we're gonna go and get it. And he was gonna find a way to do this marathon, yes or yes. So I'm like, you know what? If this guy's got, it's just, I want to be responsible for this guy. I want to take care of this guy. So, all right, we're gonna do the marathon. I'm gonna look over it. And so I started planning for this guy, and this guy we started running at a pace at like a 14-minute pace, which was, or some 13 and a half, 14-minute pace, and 3 miles felt eternal. And I mean, it's something that it's almost like a fast walk for me, but therefore this guy was working. And then his doctor on top of that told me he cannot go above 149 heart rate. Mind you, he's 6'6". I mean, if he was almost 300 pounds too.
Yeah.
And he's lost a lot. He's like 250 now, but still. And the longer, and it was in 2019. It was the longer the runs came. I mean, sometimes I would come home and my wife would be like, "Oh shit, you look like shit." I mean, it's like because we were been running like 6 miles, took like almost a half a marathon, but we finished it. And by the time that we got to the New York City Marathon, it was crazy because he went from a 13-minute miles to he ran the marathon at 9:15, 9 minutes 15. Because his aerobic engine got so well developed. He did not get hurt, and I was so freaking pleased, man. But therefore, he wanted me to carry all his water, so I had to carry 20 pounds with me of water on the vest, and he did not take one sip of that water too. One sip. I told him about the aid stations, everything going on. No. Forget the aid section. Okay, now you're carrying shit. Not one step.
Yeah.
But yeah, go back to your questions. I mean, it's very tricky to tell somebody that, yeah, it's um you got to learn how to process the information and just kind of like start with a 5K. Get to know, okay, can you run first of all? Are you not gonna get hurt?
Yeah.
Um, all these little things. Are your feet adequate for running? Is your body adequate for running? So you
Yeah.
got to answer yourself all those questions.
Yeah, you mentioned gait, and I know that there's an assessment that you do. How do you start to analyze that, and kind of what are you looking for in kind of a natural slash uh, mechanically sound running
Well,
stride?
yeah. So I'm looking for certain things. First off, is the person heel striking and how much. Mind you, it's not that there's nothing wrong with heel striking,
Yeah, I was
but
about to say, did heel striking come back? There was like a whole internet movement. Uh, what was it?
well,
Was it Romanov?
yeah. Well,
Cut?
I'm a Romanov. Yeah, I'm a Romanov
Mhm.
kind of guy,
Yeah,
and this is
Romanov
where.
came in and told everybody on the internet for a little while, if you could decipher what he was saying, heel striking's out. Now I
Yeah,
think it's like a little heel strike we're okay with.
but here's. I mean, it's not that heel striking is bad. It's just when you start running and you start consistently going for like what you were saying, people that are heel strikers, and then they start, oh, you know what? I'm just gonna go for a marathon. And then you start looking at their knees, why their knees all patched up all of a sudden.
Yeah,
And then because of course, if you heel strike, you're just bringing up chain or up your upstream all that friction, all that you're
inner-
hitting the pavement consistently with your heel going up your knee, low back,
yeah,
and it just starts messing with you. It's like you're putting the brakes on every single time you run because your leg is forward and therefore you're off your center of mass. Your general center of mass is where you're standing. So
Sure.
anything that you're doing moving forward. So for instance, your own body weight's going to move forward. You got to have your feet going underneath you, just keeping your center of mass. Just like if you're lifting weights, you're not going to have a snatch going forward, right, Mash? I mean,
So no, but my
never.
point, I have a question. Like what you're saying basically would be the same for sprinting. I just did this 25-page article all about sprinting and like the biomechanics of what happens in a sprint. But it's the same. They're saying they want to strike center of mass
Mhm.
underneath the body. However, they would also, most people would agree that some form of heel strike eventually happens regardless. I mean, the ball of the foot strikes, and then a little bit of the heel goes down after that. What are your
Yeah.
thoughts?
No, 100%. 100%. There are some times that you are going to heel strike. And I'm not saying it's not, again, it's not that it's bad or it's, but if you can keep, even you're saying both. I mean, if you analyze and you just see how amazing
No,
all
I
his,
did. I
all his
did. I talked
footwork is
about it in
just
my
amazing.
article.
Uh,
Amazing. Yes.
it's
we're Johan
something,
Blake fans.
We are Johan Blake fans, but
uh,
even both of them, I actually analyzed both of their running styles, and in the acceleration phase, 100%, the heel didn't touch at all. But
no,
at the end, towards the end of the 100-meter, both of them eventually there was a little bit. I mean, the whole point would be to minimize braking towards the end, but
Well,
mhm.
when they run that 100 meters, it's pure acceleration, probably 80 of it.
No, about some people would say that Usain might have done up to 60, but 30 to 40, and then they're going to try to hold max velocity to
Yeah.
80, and then 80 to 100 is trying to not decelerate as
Mhm.
much, which Usain is the king of. Is like Johan is going, his acceleration is better, but then Usain just keeps getting faster. It seems like.
No, you're saying if you look at back to his videos, he would even slow down even on the final. He
Yeah,
would slow down like 5 meters before or something,
I know
something crazy.
celebrating. I'm like,
He was celebrating. He was already
don't
just
do
like
that.
taking, and, so,
I'm
but he was already in his element. And I feel that he could have run so much faster and break so much more, that
probably.
break the record so far none. It's just, um,
Well,
even at
even when
200.
Johan sit the second fastest of all time, at the end he's like waving. I'm like, man, why don't you guys
Yeah,
run through it and
yeah,
see what happens? Like,
yeah.
how fast are you really? But
He was. I mean, he was one of the most exciting runners. And this is why the 100-meter was such an ordeal.
Yeah.
And the 200-meter, because you're witnessing something that you have never seen before. This guy was just that powerful and that fast.
Totally. Javier, I was just reading, it was actually yesterday, about plyometrics, but for endurance athletes. And there was this big study Brian Mann was talking about, and how when endurance athletes went through a period of like plyometrics, specifically doing what you're saying, trying to learn to create a little bit more tightness around the ankle, it created more running efficiency. So they burned less calories because they weren't braking, because they weren't heel striking in front of them, causing this massive braking. What are your thoughts about plyometrics for endurance?
Well, I think it's great as long as you can have your biomechanics in order. And by that, I mean you have to properly squat, you have to properly bend, you have to do all the primal movements that Paul Chek talks about, which is bend, push, pull, gait, lunge, squat. And if you do all these things properly, then of course I'm all for plyometrics. But here's the caveat. Dr. Romanov, he talks about getting you to bunny hop. And so by that, I mean you jumping rope.
I saw that.
And so this is by you jumping rope alone, it can teach you of you landing on the ball of the foot with the kiss of the heel, as opposed to just landing. Because sometimes I cringe. I see a lot of runners or all over here in Miami, and they try so hard. I can see that these people are trying when they're just landing on their tippies, and then they ask why they're having a lot of calf problems, or their calves are just acting up all of a sudden. It's them going and not have just completely on the ball foot without the heel kissing the ground. The heel has to kiss the ground.
Yeah, that's my point. Right.
It's just a kind of like a quick reaction off the ground.
Right.
And you moving
100%.
forward without a lot of vertical oscillation. By vertical oscillation, I mean if you're running and you're doing like a big squat jump, we're just going up and down, huge. You're just wasting a lot of energy. Right. Therefore, if you're just going and running, like if there's a ceiling right above your head and you're running and you're not able to touch that ceiling, that's you going in a just pure bouncing. I'm just like touch and go. Just
that's what they talked a lot. Johan and Usain both, like the height never changed almost at all. Crazy. I could talk about biomechanics of running now forever. Like I spent the last month reading everything there is to read. It's fascinating.
Yes. And if you look at it, swimmers as well. Swimmers, I mean, you see Michael Phelps, how pure he is, and he would just it was something great just witnessing him swim, because there was you could see his head always consistently going forward. His body would turn in such a way that there was never any energy leak, which is a lot of what Romanov would talk about, all these energy leaks that we would just with the vertical oscillation, with a lot of movement from the arms or letting the legs do the work, when it's just your whole body just creates perfect movement.
What about using the different reflexes of the body? The cross extensor reflex is called, where it's the thing that when you fall, when the hip flexes, the 1 foot strike, the striking leg extends more violently. But like the more you use the stretch shortening cycle, the more you use the reflexes, the stretch, the more efficient running becomes and the more effortless it seems.
Right. And it's what post method, and you can call it post method, you can call it natural gait running, or there were so many types of methods of running, but it's in its purest form, you have to be using your hamstrings as opposed to just your flexors. And by that I mean it's like when you're falling, there's a certain angle that you can fall, and there's a certain angle that you can just jog, there's a certain angle you can sprint. Usain Bolt's angle for sprinting was, I'm gonna guesstimate here about, this guy was just like 30 degrees or some shit. But it's like all you need is a slight edge of angle of falling. And therefore, when you have those feet underneath the ground, it's like you having this cable. Like I always tell my students, it's like, just pretend that from your hip to your ankle, you have a cable. Okay, from that cable, you're just pulling that ankle or that heel up to your butt. Okay, so therefore, how much of a pull that's going to be, it's going to depend on how much your fall is going to go. So if you're falling
100%.
more, yeah. So if you're falling more, you're going to have more pull as opposed to if you're just jogging, you're just keeping those. I mean, the pull is not going to be that big.
Well, wouldn't you say that they kind of, the whether you're talking about hip flexion or knee flexion, they go hand in hand because they're
Mhm.
biarticular muscles. So,
Right.
like when the hamstring flexes, when you finish what is it, the drive phase, and you're starting into the swing phase,
Hmm.
even though the knee is flexing, that's also going to create hip flexion as well. And so
A
they
hundred
all
percent.
they all work together. It's so beautiful,
No, it's 100%, and it's Romanov has this the concept that you have like everybody goes through figure four. I mean, when you're running, everybody has that figure four, and but then again, both knees have to be slightly bent, and this is where I go back and it's like heel striking. Heel striking is you have that knee fully extended, and that ankle just crashing
That's
to
how
the
you get
ground,
hurt, right?
and this is where you get hurt. And this is and it, again, if you're not a runner and you're just here, it's okay. I mean, but it's something that to pay attention to because there is a flaw in your gait. There is something that we can do to get yourself better because at some point in time that thing is going to bite you up the ass.
Totally. So you don't really like when you're teaching people running, this is I'm having so much fun. So you
No.
don't teach them to like a lot of people will teach them to fully extend and to really punch that foot into the ground, causing, I think, too much at back end mechanics and causing the knee to go straight towards the end because I noticed Northern you saying or Johan, neither one of their knees extended completely
Hmm.
upon the extension part. Um, so how do you teach? Like, what is the most important part of, whether it's a swing phase, drive phase? What do you talk? What do you preach the most?
Well, here's the thing. I mean, everybody's going to be in a little different phase of it because there are some people that, if you notice, um, some people will run like soldiers and just never fall, and
Yeah.
they're just so stiff, and therefore it's just a
Michael
lot of hard.
Johnson. Remember Michael
Oh
Johnson?
yeah,
Lean back.
but
Crazy.
here's the thing: if you look at Michael Johnson's videos, he's still leaning forward. There was a lot of forward lean on him. The thing is, you would see him just going up, but there was a lot of forward lean on him. But the thing about it is, he was amazing at the 200 meters. Therefore, did not need that big forward lean like
Yeah.
Usain
Right.
Bolt would do. But Michael Johnson was always leaning forward. The thing is, it was, I remember, very peculiar time. Why is he so upright? No, it was still that forward lean. He was just like it's
Yeah.
a straight line. If you look at just pause his form. But where do I start when I just, like, for instance, I remember when I was working with Brian at CrossFit Endurance, we would film so many people. And through that filming process, we would see all different types of, okay, this is where you're going to start. So more people than anything have trouble with just okay, let's just have gravity take over. Let's just fall. Everybody try to just fall. And that drill of just having to fall would scare the shit out of people. Not scare the shit out of people, like holy shit. I mean, they start bending at the waist, which is
Yeah.
something that you're not going to be able to do in running. Because if you're bending at the waist, what happens is your low back is going to suffer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not to
So
mention that would eliminate the amount of hip flexion you could create then too. If you're leaning forward, your knee can't come high enough. Correct.
exactly, exactly.
Right.
And when I'm using the True Form Runner or any type of running device where the treadmill is not moving underneath you, but you got to be moving the treadmill, I usually put like a band like near the so the person can kind of cue to where to have their hips open because I cue them to have their hips open because if you start flexing at the hip and just bending, therefore there's not going to be any forward lean. There's not going to be any gravity. So because you're just chances are you're going to start heel striking, if
Right.
you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So you cannot have that K at any point. So this is where I have to be teaching my students how to fall. And there's many different drills in uh, the impose and natural gait running is like you learning how to just kind of slightly fall. And if you just
Right.
if and you can do it after we hang up, but I mean just slightly get yourself to put all the weight of your body and just start forward, like more pressure on the ball of your feet, and your heels kind of start lifting. That's how much of a movement you need for you to start falling, for you to start creating a movement. Does that make
I,
sense?
yeah, I have a question for you. I noticed a lot of people would debate about, with the backside mechanics, never to show the bottom of your foot to the sky. But I'm looking at Hussein, and inevitably he for sure did. But so what are your thoughts? They wanted you to once you extend to create more of the four, like you're talking about, where
Mhm.
the foot never, the bottom of the foot never points up, but points back more.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts?
No, 100%. But I mean, it's that takes care of itself in when if you're just having your ankle relax and let the body just when you're just hitting the ground, the body you're gonna pronate or supinate, which people that don't know. Pronate means the ankle rolls inside and
Right.
supinate goes outside, but everybody pronates and supinates, some more than others. And this is where the overpronation and oversupination terms come in. But everybody pronates and supinates. That's kind of like how the ankle kind of supports itself when you land.
Right.
Now, it's gonna create differently if there's some deficiency going that your body's telling you. So when you kind of people with with flat feet will be
That's me.
pronating a lot,
Yeah,
and
that's me.
and some people with high arches will be supinating a lot.
Sure.
And this is where okay, so I mean, this is where you got to be paying attention. It's like, okay, maybe these are people who have candidate in the meantime for some type of insult or anything like that. Some of them, not all of them, because some flat feet you can correct. You can get the curvature of your foot to go in. But to answer your question, there's a drill of that you can just stand near a wall, like with your back against the wall, and you want to be pulling your leg, like I was telling you, like having that ankle, like from your hip to your ankle, towards
Yeah.
your, and just kind of pull. And if you start touching the wall, therefore it's the pull, it's the delay of the pull is somewhat you got to master that. It's like okay, keep it under your center of mass. Anything
Yeah.
outside your center of mass, something is gonna go off. There's a cool drill also that you can just go like it's you're holding on to a person in the front, kind of like by their shoulders, keeping them relaxed, and then somebody else holds you on the back. So basically, you're pulling at the same time, and if you're you cannot do a late pull because if you pull late, you're hitting another one in the nuts.
Oh,
So
yeah.
yeah, so that's a very cool drill, but at the same time, you got to be careful and being a little bit of a mastery before you start jumping in a drill like this.
You're the only, I've heard only one other person ever mention that four position. There's a guy local. He is a master of getting people faster. Is William Bradley. He's mainly for sprinting, but you're the second person I've ever heard even mention that. But it is a game changer. I've watched him
Yeah.
because we work hand in hand. I'll take a lot of his athletes and we'll do strength training that benefits that individual. He'll take my athletes and he'll dial in their technique on sprinting. But that dude is like a wizard. He spends a
Mhm.
couple days with my athletes will spend 2 days with him. Next thing you know, they're faster because they're learning how to use more uh, knee flexion
Yeah,
in the
no,
way that
it's
for sprinting. So
and also to add to your what you just said, it's when you're properly running, and I say properly because there is a standard for running, and there is a standard for swimming, as there's a standard for cycling. But the fact that there is no standard, you can just go and put your sneakers on and run a marathon. I mean, that is
mm-mm.
something. It's like it in a less uh impactful phase of okay, let's just put my Olympic lifts and let's go do snatching. Nobody's ever going to do something like that. But some people in the endurance was like, oh, it's almost the same thing. But they do it anyway. But
I
it's
totally agree. I would never do that until someone like you fixed my gait. No way.
exactly. But they don't think of it like that. They think it's like it's harmless, and they don't want to waste time because everybody wants to be. It's I can't remember the I think it was Fitzgerald, the owner of OPEX, he said something. I remember him talking with him a long time ago. He said that a lot of people, we were talking about the CrossFit community back then, and how the CrossFit community they brought in all these people that were into fitness, but they all of a sudden they started snatching and they started doing Olympic lifts and everything. And so therefore, people that should have been like right here in the bottom, starting off their fitness journey, they were already in the middle.
Yeah.
So once in the middle, their technique was all messed up already. So therefore,
Ruined.
yeah. So this is where a lot of injuries started just escalating.
I totally agree with you. Yeah. If people would just if you want to do weightlifting, get with someone like me early. If you want to run well, get with someone like you early. Because once you mess it up, I might never get it to where I could have you come to me early. I can fix it,
Right.
but it may never get to where it could have been because, your body is so brilliant. Like once it learns something, it's very hard to unlearn it because it passes that information onto a deeper part of the brain that's super hard to erase.
100%, and I agree with you because it's also just a lot of maintenance, and it comes second nature. Your technique becomes second nature. And I read an article of like before COVID. I remember that there was this person just trying to kind of like saying that the post method did not work because of you focusing a lot on your running technique as opposed to you just running freely. But if you go back to something like, okay, let's take this a step backwards, and okay, let's go back because this person was saying, okay, if you run barefoot, then you're gonna have your natural gait and everything. Yes, it's true. If after a few times of your heel touching the ground, yeah, you are gonna start fixing your gait a bit. But it all comes down to the same thing. It's you relearning the process of taking the time and okay, this is how gait should be. This is how I'm not gonna have
Right.
any energy leaks because that's what it is. If you're not having any energy leaks, you are gonna become faster because there is more energy to push.
100% agree with you. There's so many beautiful ways to help people get more efficient in running.
Mhm.
If you know what you're doing, I think I'm now probably definitely equally as fascinated with running as I am with weightlifting. Now that I'm starting to understand the biomechanics more and more, it becomes fascinating, just like weightlifting. It's like if I do this little tweak, like a millimeter changes everything. It's like,
Mhm.
it's beautiful.
It's I love running. I don't love running as I used to. I mean going the distance. I mean, but I enjoy a good run. I just enjoy
Me too.
enjoy with the gorgeous weather that the whole country's gonna have now. It's just nice to go out and enjoy a nice little run without knowing that you're gonna be hurt or anything. But
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, that's when you do it enough. And I actually learned this. It's kind of one of those things you've known your whole life, but until you really want to put in like a year into running,
mhm.
and like actually have a long game plan for getting better at the skill of it. Um, but once you put in the time, all of a sudden it's really fun, and
Yes, it becomes
you
second
you want to
nature.
see how many RPMs you can run the Ferrari at, and
Yes.
that's a very fun process. I almost and I guess there's no like right entry point, but having a long-term game plan and looking at it as skill development was
Oh
something that
yeah.
just like really helped me kind of over the year, and then realizing like once you get somewhat efficient at the actual movement, you're not sitting there just like fighting yourself over and over,
Right.
every
Right.
single day where you're just climbing uphill. You can actually see and feel yourself get better, which is in the end like the feeling that we are all chasing no matter what you're doing. I just want to know that I'm getting better, and it comes with all of those good feelings once you actually like the skill stops being the thing holding you back.
Hmm.
Totally. Like
It's
weightlifting, like if you do it right, it feels like you didn't do anything. Same thing
Right?
with running, it's
The,
like,
the
whoa,
the easiest lift of my life was the PR. If you watch it
sure.
on video, because you do everything right in order to do that.
Feels
and
weightless.
yeah,
Beautiful.
and again, if you go okay, so let's go back to what the whole philosophy of CrossFit endurance was. And I was telling Andres that it was crazy that at some point in time, I remember our seminars at CrossFit Endurance being sold out way in advance and more even than the level ones at the time, which we're talking 2011. And when CrossFit was still kind of booming, but with the CrossFit Endurance was that we put technique as the forefront, then intensity, and then volume. When the traditional endurance method comes in and says, okay, let's do the volume first, then the intensity, and then if we have time, the technique.
Yeah.
When it's always been, you gotta have that technique. It's true in weightlifting as it is true in every sport.
Everything beautiful in athletics.
Mhm.
Agree.
And so that, I mean, it's not like it was CrossFit endurance thing, but it holds true on all sense of the words in all sports. There's always has to be a mastery of technique before the intensity and before even the volume.
Yeah.
All right.
Javier, we need to have you back here again soon, man. I'd love
Man, I love this. Thank you guys for having me. It was a true pleasure, man. I honestly was looking forward to this. I woke up like if it was Christmas morning.
Fired up. I love it. Where can the people find you and find out about
Usually
yourself?
at in Instagram, at Endurance Cartel. It's
Such a friendly person you are with the last word of cartel in the back.
I
of it.
love
know,
it.
right?
I love it.
That's a great
When
name.
Brian sent that over, I was like, I don't know. I
Endurance
was like
Cartel, man.
expecting like an endurance guy with like a full body tattoo, like eye
Nah,
tattoo.
I love it. That makes me for sure
Man.
want to get to know him. Yeah.
Yeah.
My kind of people.
Travis Bash.
Thank you.
Matchlead.com, you guys. Read if you want to read my latest article on sprinting, go to
I'm
jimwarrior.com.
gonna go read it right now, man.
Yeah, I would love to see what you think.
Yeah, man.
Doug
Cool.
Larson.
You bet. I'm on Instagram, Douglas E. Larson. Javier, dude, stoked to have you on the show. I was looking forward to this conversation and love having you here on the team at Rapid. You serve a very similar role as Mash again, where you kind of help out as an extra coach. All clients get their kind of standard strength coach, but then anyone that needs extra endurance specific help, we assign you to those guys' accounts, just like people that need extra strength specific help. We assign Mr. Travis Mash to jump in and help out. So
I love it.
Yeah, it's a lot of value bringing you on the team. So we love having you and appreciate you coming on the show.
So
I
much
appreciate
fun.
you guys for the invite. Thank you very much, guys.
All right.
And I'm Anders Varner at Anders Varner, and we are Barbell Shrugged to Barbell_Shrugged. And make sure you get over to RapidHealthReport.com. That is where you can find Dan Garner and Dr. Andy Galpin doing a free lab, lifestyle, and performance analysis that everybody will receive inside Rapid Health Optimization. As always, you can access that over at RapidHealthReport.com. Friends, we'll see you guys next week.